subtracting 4 from both sides. I meant add 4 to both sides. Adding 4 here give us 0, add 4, okay? And then divide both sides by 3, which is basically 1 1/3 as well. So that's second solution. So the two solutions. Okay, so these questions, pause the video and write them down, and then the solutions, you can compare your solutions afterwards. Here are the solution. Pause the video and check them out. Now, this one is x equal positive 9 or negative 9. The plus minus means and or. Alright, so x equal positive 9 or negative 9. Now, for this one, y is equal to negative 5 and negative 2. So notice it's not x value because the question was given, you have to find the values of y. Remember, you don't have to present it in set notation. It could be, for example, x equal negative 7 over 8 or x equal 5 over 9. Could be written like that as well. This is just an option of how you're going to write it. We're looking at solution of quadratic equation. And the general form, remember, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It should be in the standard form when we want to solve it. Set to 0. We know a cannot be 0, but a, b, and c can be any real numbers, as well as, a, b, and c can be any real numbers, but just remember a cannot be 0. b and c, however, can be equal to 0. Now, we're solving quadratic equations. We can use what is known as the formula to find the value of x. If you notice, the letters or the variables on this side, the right hand side, we only have a, b, and c. And so, look at this, a, b, and c. Those are the coefficient constants. Alright? And so we can replace those with numbers. For example, we have to solve using the formula negative 4 x squared plus 7x plus 5 equals 0. This is already in the standard form, quadratic linear constant equals 0. Good. First step is the label, which means to take the values of a, b, and c. In this case, a is negative 4, coefficient of x squared, b is 7, coefficient of x, and c is a constant 5. We only can label once we have it equals 0. Remember that. Next step is to substitute. Substitute these values we have here into the formula. And so that's what we have done. Look at it. X is equal to negative b. Replace b with its value, which is 7. So negative, open bracket, and put the value of b, which is positive 7. Plus or minus the square root of, in bracket, replacing b, we're going to have 7. Put back the negative 4. And in bracket, replacing a, we have negative 4. And in bracket, replacing c, we have 5. And in bracket, replacing a, we're going to have negative 4. Now, we need to simplify the right hand side once we have substitute the values that we have labeled. Now look at it. Unlike signs will give us negative 7 plus or minus the square root of. Square of 7 will give us 49. Now we have to be careful around this area, this region. Very careful. We cannot subtract 4 from 49 because negative 4 is multiplying negative 4 and multiplying 5. Okay, so we have to find the product of 4ac. And then we can deal with the b squared afterwards. So negative 4 multiplied by a multiplied by c. Negative 4 times negative 4 times 5, in other words. Let's work out the last two first. Well, I've just done that in this example. Doesn't necessarily have to do that, but 5 4s 20, and unlike signs, negative. we have 49, we have negative 4 multiplying by 20, and 2 times negative 4 will give us negative 8. Next step is to multiply negative 4 by negative 20, which will give us positive 80. 49 plus 80 in the next step gives us 129. But we keep putting back everything else since we cannot do nothing with negative 7, but we cannot do anything with the negative 8 as the time being. Okay, so now 49 plus 80, remember we got 49, negative 4 times negative 20 give us positive 80. So now we have 49 plus 80 give us 129. Alright, so we need to find the square root of 129. And the square root of 129 to 3 decimal places is 11.358. We still cannot do nothing with negative 7 and the negative 8. Why? Because we have plus or minus. So what we're going to do, we're going to separate this fraction into 2 parts. We're going to find the sum of these 2 numbers and then the difference of these 2 numbers. So we're going to have negative 7 added to 11.358, and we're going to have negative 7 negative 7 minus 11.358. So we're going to subtract 11.358 from negative 7. So let's look at it. So in one instance, we take the positive between the 2 numbers, and in the next instant, we take the negative between the 2 numbers, as you can see here. So for one of them, we have it as either, and for the other one, we have it as or. Working on the top, we have 4.358 divided by negative 8, 3 decimal place, we have negative 0.545. Or, we're taking the negative now, or the minus if you want to put it as that. Negative 7 minus 11.358 divided by negative 8. Work out the top first, we have negative 18.358. Divided by negative 8, we have 2.295. And so that's the second solution. So our solution set, x equal negative 0.545 and 2.295. Those are our 2 solutions. So now we're solving quadratic equation using the formula, and we know the formula should be x equal negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, let's write them so it can help me along as I go through this example question. Alright, we want to solve this equation, 15x squared minus 8 equals 14x. Just like factorizing, we want to ensure that this equation is set to 0, is equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do is to rewrite as usual. The next step is to make this 0 by subtracting from both sides. Okay, this example was done using factorization, so you can check out that video. Now, the first step, once it's in standard form, that's the first step, mind you, ensure it's in standard form. The next step is to label. Right, once it's equal to 0, which I refer to as the standard form, we can label. What is the value of A, what is the value of B, what's the value of C? Now we should remember, it's basically ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That is the standard form, or the general form for the quadratic equation, trinomial. So A is 15, B is negative 14, and C, the constant, is negative 8. So we label them as that. A is 15, B is negative 14, and C, the constant, is negative 8. Once we have that, then we can substitute these values into the formula. But here's a way I'm going to actually do it, so it's kind of a little bit simpler, at least that's what I think. So let's look at it. Well, the different parts of the quadratic formula, I'm going to take the negative b, let's look at that, which means negative 1 times b, or the value of b. And I can work that out. Negative 1 times the value of b, which is negative b. Negative 1 times, and the value of b here is negative 14. Multiplying that gives us positive 14. So I will replace negative b with 14. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Let's look at the next part. I need b squared. And b squared means b times b, which will give me, now look at b, it's negative 14, so I'm going to multiply that. And negative 14, now 14 times 14, and that will give us 196. And the next thing I need to do is to find negative 4ac. Okay, so I have b squared so far. Next thing I need to do is to find negative 4ac. And you should understand that means negative 4 times a times c. This little part here especially, it's important to actually do it like this so you don't have any problems. Negative 4 times the value of a, which is going to be 15, and the c is negative 8. We multiply all of this, multiplying the numbers, so 14 times 15 times 8, and that gives us 480. What about the sign? Negative times negative gives us positive, times a positive, still positive. Alright, so that's positive. Positive 480. Alright, the next part is basically 2a. Alright, 2a means 2 times a, which is 2 times 15, which is 30. So we have the parts we need. So let's look to substitute these values into the quadratic formula. So we're going to have x equal, the negative b is the first part, replacing it with positive 14, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which we got 196, and the entire negative 4ac, we got positive 480. So no sign problems in that under the square root there. And 2a. And 2a is 30. Okay, so now we can proceed to solve that problem. Alright, so we're going to have x equal 14 plus or minus the square root of 196 plus 480, that's 676 using the calculator. We're going to have x equal 14 plus minus, and the square root of 676 using the calculator, and that gives us 26 divided by 30. Okay, so you look for this little square root symbol on the calculator. Sometimes you have to press shift and then the x squared button, and you get the square root symbol. Alright, so now we have 14 plus or minus 26 all over 30. That means we're going to have either x equal to 14. We're going to take the plus this time over 30, or we're going to take the negative the next time, the minus, so we have 14 minus 26 over 30, and let's solve that. So we're going to have x equal, and that will give us 40 divided by 30, or let's solve this part. Find the difference between these because they're unlike signs. The difference between them is 12, and it's going to be negative 12. Okay, we have more negatives than positives, so it's negative 12 over 30, and then this will give us x equal, no, divide both numbers by 10, we get 4 over 3. Dividing both these two by 6, we get 2 over 5. And that's the two solutions for x.
What you doing? Come on, stop the ballooning.